and then enjoy your coffee as we go.
Yes. All right.
Perfect. So,
is that right?
First thing is, you've been behind masks for so long, and now you're behind masks in this movie. Is it weird doing press and stuff like this for it?
Is it weird to what? I'm sorry?
To do press?
Yeah, it's a little bit more, I don't know, it's a little, I have a bit more of a problem with it, I think, in the sense of I'm talking to people outside of my element, that you kind of, back in that mode of having to kind of like prove yourself or something, it feels like to me a little bit, you know, and so yeah, I mean, I always have a problem doing press anyway, I think, in the sense that, you know, I never think I have very mumuch to say. Even right now, I'm stumbling in my head going, you really have nothing to say here right now, you know? It's all fine, you're here, you're going to do this, and it's okay, so.
But that's what, it's surprising because your persona's been mysterious for a long time. The music should remain sort of what it is, you know, like for me, not for what you tell me it is. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool that you are doing the press and that you're more visible in this round.
I think so. I mean, I'll like take that from you as being a like positive thing. I've always kind of felt like I should stay in the background because the character of Ogre, for example, you know, which is more of a projection of things that, you know, have terrified me my whole life in a lot of ways, or have made me feel uncomfortable, that shouldn't really be a part of who I am necessarily. And my biggest fear when I was doing Skinny Puppy when I was younger was that if kids actually saw who I was and that I was the type of person that escorted flies out of the house and, like, you know, wouldn't hurt anything, would they still find it as having validity and it being legitimate? And I was surprised to see that actually that counterpoint is a really amazing thing within the human experience. So I think people find within that struggle something that's positive if the person's a good person. If they're an asshole, obviously it's a whole different scene. And I've seen a lot of assholes, so.
I would imagine that over the years that you may have encountered a few. So my quick question for Repo, so we can get the Repo stuff out of the way before we get into the other stuff. But the Repo question is, how do you describe this movie to people?
It's hard for me to describe it in a lot of ways. I think that it's something that I think will polarize audiences in a really great way, and I you know, I embrace that because Skinny Puppy and my career has been about that type of polarization. So I think that whether or not, you know, you like it or you don't like it, one thing you can honestly not say about it is that it resembles anything else in a lot of ways. And I think that there's satire, there's quirkiness, there's a darkness to it. There's a beautiful tone to it as well, and there's a fairy tale sort of like arc to it within the relationship between Shiloh and you know, Nathan, and it works. That works, and so the rest of the movie kind of strings along with it and becomes all these parts of a very much bigger whole that has a lot to do, I think, with, you know, the oppression that we all face in our lives, and, you know, how we're all trying to escape from something, whether we try and buy our way out of it or not. You know.
That's awesome. Now you made me lose my segue question. Oh, okay, now I know what it is. So you and Bill in particular look like you're having a blast. Every time you're on the screen, both of you are stealing the scenes, and like, maybe it's the mask, maybe it's you, but was this a fun movie to
Yeah.
It seemed like watching it looks like, man, this was a party.
Well, again, my experience is limited in knowing what other sets are like and what other experiences are like in that, because I've always worked with family, you know, within Skinny Puppy and Ogre. It's always a family that's been together for almost 20 years that keeps going out together and working together. So in this case, I think I was lucky enough to stumble upon something that was a passion project and was somebody's dream, and also involved the creators of the original project. And in that way, I think I stumbled upon something that was a very supportive sort of fun vibe where everybody was having a really good time, because it was something they really enjoyed doing, as opposed to something they may have had to do or contracted to do, or whatever happens in other situations where things aren't so pleasant. And I think everybody, you know, for me, Bill, for example, was somebody who, when I met, was very gracious, wonderful, and gave me a lot of support, which allowed me to kind of feel secure even under the mask, for it being the first time that I've been on film. So he was like my backbone in a lot of ways. He was always kind of there, and he kind of gave me a lot of guidance within the scenes, and we played off each other all the time, and we got to know each other, which was awesome. And the result of that is something that he's given me, which is, you know, another gift, which is you know, some spoken word on the Ogre record and stuff.
That's what I was gonna say, is that your friendship with him is now put him on the new record that comes out on fucking Tuesday.
Yes.
So
and he's
the
awesome.
week of Ogre.
It is, hopefully. The 1 week of Ogre.
The 1 week of Ogre. CD and a movie.
And there isn't a Shrek movie out, so.
So it's the you Ogre.
Yeah, it's a me Ogre.
Now, okay, the last Ogre was a little more pop sensible than Skinny Puppy. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Is this along the same lines? Because the website certainly doesn't lead me to believe it.
No, it's the exact opposite, and that was more done out of immediacy, and I think that in this project, especially because of the events that took place, there was an interruption in what the next album was supposed to be, and I'd originally had a concept for an album called Blurry Dotted Eyes, which was more about my dog, who I found, who is blind. And when I found her, she was a mess. She was like a little Frankenstein dog, and no one would have rescued her, and no one would have taken her to the vet. No one would have attempted to save her. It was that bad. She was spewing, this discharge out of her nose like Linda Blair, like really bad. I almost thought it was neurological, but nobody would have gone the distance that I went. But the result of going there, I didn't spend a lot of money, but I just stuck with it, and most people wouldn't. I got the most incredible companion, the most incredible dog, and she's changed, she's just transformed. And so you see this kind of thing with wounded and abused and tortured creatures. You see that there's this cycle of kind of regeneration, and that was the album was supposed to be like. But an event in my own life took a turn, and the immediacy of that created the whole Devil's in My Details, and that was something that I needed to work through. It was a shocking experience for me, and it was something that if I didn't have a writer like Mark Walk, my partner to work with, I wouldn't have been able to, I think, transcend what I feel like is my experience onto a digital medium to the listener in a lot of ways. And without knowing what the experience was, it doesn't matter, because the concept's there and all the emotion kind of came out in a really good way. And you'll listen to it and hopefully you'll see. But it's a very dark record, absolutely.
Now, when in the past, like growing up, when to explain Skinny Puppy, to me the easiest way was it's like listening to a horror movie. You close your eyes and it's like watching a horror movie, but it's there, it's not just a sound for it. Mm-hmm. Is this in that league of that?
I would say so. I would say it's kind of my last rites in a lot of ways. It's a very dark record. We did it all in one Pro Tools session. Basically, it's basically one long song in a lot of ways. It's a 43-minute piece of music that has a beginning and an end. We've cut it up, but it's segmented in such a way that there's more of an impact due to the listener kind of like being immersed in the experience, as opposed to going song by song by song and looking for the hits. It is an immersive record, and it's a concept record.
Wow. And then last question is, did Luigi find his way onto this record at all?
Luigi did find his way into this record. Bill, when I was up in Toronto, was reading me some of his poetry, and it was incredible. I mean, he's a Yale-educated sage of darkness, and so he read me this poem that he'd written about my girlfriend and I after meeting her, and it was amazing. And so near the end of the recording, I asked him to come in. He did everything in one take. Incredible. And we're like, once we laid it all in, it created this seam and this knitting that kind of weaved this other layer throughout the whole project. That again, which was good.
What about Poppy?
Poppy's in there. There's a tuba. There's a little bit of high stuff, but it's kind of back on Ogre, I think, for that. The glass is back to Ogre.
It was infiltrating.
But Repo rocks.